All right, have at it. We're good.
All right, well, as you said, my name is Jerry Conway. I'm not from Huntsville, but is anybody actually from Huntsville? Anybody? Not really, right? Everybody kind of like migrated here, like a few people that have been here. But yeah, I've been here since about 2000. My talk is on what was asked earlier, and the gentleman from Calhoun stood up and talked about a little bit. It's breaking into the security field. What I like to call going from zero to hero. I'm going to give you a little information about like how I got into it and how I stepped into getting into it. Alright, so this is me. I've got 16 years experience in it. It's kind of a boring slide. This is probably the most words you'll see on any of my slides. It's for maybe one more. I work for NASA, DOD, got a master's degree, a bachelor's degree, got a bunch of certifications, but it just kind of just says that I have a bunch of qualifications. Alright, so the number one question I get from young folks, and when I got asked to come to BSides, I was told that it's going to be a bunch of high school students, a bunch of college students, people trying to get into the field. So I wanted to come with a talk that addressed that kind of addressed that audience. And this is like the number one question I get asked all the time is, how do I get into the security field? It's so hard to get in there. How do I get past these job interviews? What training do I need? What certifications do I need? Should I learn a programming language? What is the barriers to get into this stuff, right? So I want to address that. If you guys have ever sat in any of my other talks, I'm usually hacking something, breaking something, live on stage kind of stuff. And sometimes it goes well, sometimes it goes bad. Notice I have no computers this time, so it should just go well. There's no demo shots to make that. With that in mind, let me tell you my story of how I got into the security field, because honestly, when I was a kid, I had no clue that I wanted to do this. So I grew up in a town, it's about 100,000 people, the tallest building in the town, about 12 stories. The coolest landmark is a giant jackrabbit that they use for like the symbol of the town. It's Odessa, Texas. Anybody ever heard of Odessa, Texas? Famous for oil, right? Really what they're famous for is this, Friday Night Lights. Yup, I went to that high school. So think about a kid like me, or what you see now, like a computer geek. Back then, I loved football, would go to like the football things, stuff like that. I did like computers back then, but not like I do now. It is not known for technology. Anybody ever heard like cool stuff come out of Odessa, Texas? Yeah, it's not happening, right? So, it's not known for technology. It's known for like blue collar workers, oil stuff. But my first hack. Say again. I got a new cool gadget that helps jumping out. Is that what you want? Alright. So I was gonna show myself. We're good. Alright, so my first hack, or my first introduction into like computers was in Miss Irby's class, and I still remember this class, and there's a good reason for this, is we were learning microprocessing, word processing, stuff like that, Excel, and all I wanted to do was play video games. And they had a little directory on there, and we were allowed to play video games. Or we weren't allowed to play video games, and she was password protected. So what I did was I basically just copied the file out and ran it from somewhere else, and it worked. And what was really sad about this is I had done this so many times that she told me, after she locked it down, that if I could get into the video game again, or if I could play these games, I wouldn't have to do any more work for the rest of the semester. So that happened on Monday. On Tuesday, I wasn't doing any more work for the rest of the semester. Yeah. I mean, you tell a 7th grader that this happens, right? That's what's going to happen. The problem is because we had this deal, she sent a note home to my mom. And she told her that he wasn't going to learn computers because, well, he's just smarter than everybody else in the class, I guess, or whatever, right? So my mom said, no. And this is back before you go to jail for this. Yeah, I really got justice. And I still feel the burning sensation from that justice, right? She wore me out. Needless to say, I was still doing word processing and Excel the next day. So Monday, I got told that I didn't have to do it anymore. Tuesday, I got beat. And Wednesday, I was doing homework. Alright, but that kind of was funny because who gets the last laugh right? You're a kid, so, well, I think I kind of did. Why? Because at the time, my mom wanted to go back to school. Not any kind of school. She wanted to go back to the medical school, to become a nurse practitioner. And anytime you do that, what do you have to do? You have to do like a bunch of reports and stuff. Well, back then, this was our computer. It was a WAN. Anybody ever seen WordPerfect? Oh, it was an ugly, ugly nightmare beast, right? You had like this shortcut key thing at the top. You had to push all these F12, F1, copy paste. Yeah, it was DOS shell with word processing. Anybody use your Linux keys? It was like VI scaled way down and uglier than sin, right? So if you have a problem with VI, word perfect was really bad. And think about this. This is a 30-year-old woman going back to medical school, and this was her life support to get reports and stuff in. So what did that result in? Well, a lot of this. Anybody know what that is? That's the original blue screen of death. Not that stuff you see now on the fancy Windows 7 and 8, right? You still see it, but you'd see that like every time you push the wrong button. It happened all the time. So what did that result in? About 2 in the morning, my mom would yell, and I'd do this. Yeah! I'd come running in, I'd be like, I can help you out, Mom, I'll get it out. Pull out the floppy disk, get the file back, do that kind of stuff. This is why I get the last laugh though, right? Because now my computer skills were helping her do something that she wanted to do, which resulted in me being able to do this every Friday night. Anybody know what that is? That's dialing, right, in the modem, all that kind of stuff, get into DBS systems. I can now chat with people, get games, stuff like that. There's a problem with this though. I'm in Odessa, Texas. How many really awesome BBS systems you guys know originate in the public library of BBS in Odessa, Texas? None, right? So what did I have to do? I had to dial long distance, which kind of resulted in my second hack. The second hack was figure out how I could get long distance for free. And I don't know where the heck this number originated, and I've never found anyone else that's ever said, you know what, I used this number too. But for 4.5 to 5 years, 1-800-94-SALLY, about 10 years ago, 20 or 15 years ago, I'm going to tell you how long ago, you could dial long distance anywhere in the room using that number for free. You can't do it today, but I can't say that I didn't use that on my modem so I could dial into other cool BBS systems. That was kind of like my second hack, or my second introduction to technology. I was probably getting into high school at that time. So the next chapter of my life was college. Yeah, that was fun. I was supposed to be doing a lot of this. Like I said, I wasn't a computer guy. That's not what I wanted to do. I thought my mom went back to school for medical. I'm going to go to school. I wanted to be an anesthesiologist. Well, because what's cooler in that years than being legally allowed to manipulate drugs to make people hallucinate and stuff, right? Not saying that I wanted to, but you know, it is what it is, right? That's what I was supposed to be doing. And my parents thought I was doing that, but really, in reality, I was kind of doing this. I was partying. We were taking a bunch of drugs, a bunch of alcohol, stuff like that, right? And I was taking classes like basket weaving. So parents say, take one more basket weaving class, son. And you remember the justice she laid out? She was really going to lay out justice. We're not paying for next semester's college. Oh, man. So I took basket weaving in 102, and they stopped paying for it. Needless to say, because I was really cool, and I was partying, one of the partying people that was with us introduced me to Uncle Sam. Well, first, my parents took the budget, right? I messed up that slide. Bad transition. See what happens when you don't rehearse? So they took away my funding, it became a black hole. But he introduced me to Uncle Sam. Why? Because one of the recruiters that I knew kind of like partied with us. So he's like, you can party like crazy in the Army and get paid for it. And you're used to living with a bunch of guys, so it's just like the same thing. And you can do it all over the world. Like, you don't have to be here in Texas. You can, like, go everywhere. You want to go party in Europe? Have you ever heard of Amsterdam? So you're like, holy cow, really? And they'll pay me to go party? Outstanding. Yeah, first 8 weeks, I realized real quick this is not a party, and that dude was going to die when I got out. Oh, yeah. But the cool thing about it, right, is I joined the Army. It was probably one of the best things I did in my life. It changed my entire life. It allowed me to buy my first computer, which was really cool, because I never bought my own computer. This is what my first computer had. Was a series processor doing about 133 megahertz. It was, really slow. Pentium 3 was another one I had. But it enabled me into a room that I had not really gone down, other than the little couple hacks I had in high school. And that room was, I got to tool the internet, and I started learning programming by myself, C, C++. Just thought it was really cool that I could take this machine and make it do stuff like output hello world. It was just like, wow, this is awesome, right? So I started getting in C++ and that kind of stuff. This is my third sort of hack, and I say sort of hack because people talk about this, but I actually got the letters from Hollywood that says stop sharing movies. I understood, I figured out what dynamic DNS was and how to start hosting stuff on FTP servers and put quotas and stuff. So I started hosting all these movies and all these MP3s and stuff like that, and even back then when it would take you like 3 days to download a movie, I was still doing that kind of stuff. and I got letters that said, hey, cease and desist. So by the Army enabling me to buy my computers, I started pirating movies. And I kind of got in a little bit of trouble. I took it down. So it was kind of my third sort of hat. But my first real security job, I get deployed to Korea for a year. I get orders to go to Korea. And I was like, oh, this is going to suck. But anyways, go to Korea. I really love that country. I had a blast there. I get over there and they have this additional duty. And they say, we need somebody to be the information security officer. I was like, I don't want that. I want to just hang out and afterwards go off post and drink soju, right? Because that's why I joined the Army, it was a party. And they said, well, the guy that does this gets to control who gets the internet. Oh, sign me up. I'm here for a year, I just got here, I want that additional duty. And the first place he goes is in my room. Put it in my room. Right? So I volunteered to become an ISSO. They issued me 2 things. All those books and a bunch of those unclassified stickers. So I secured the entire South Korea region, the post that I was on, Camp Casey, by sticking those green stickers all over computers. We were secure. I'd sit in little CG meetings and stuff and be like, yep, we're all secure. We got stickers on everything. Everything's unclassified. We're good to go. And if anybody ever told me that they were doing something classified or something, or like even sensitive, I'd be like, no, stop doing it. Take it out there, put it on paper. We're going to classify. Why? Because it was like a whole bunch of forms that did the other stuff. It was so much easier for me to just put green stickers. I'd go around and inspect it, and I'd be like, yep, that was that crease, so we put a new one on for you there. So that was my first security job. Anybody remember or ever heard of the Rainbow series? Yeah, we were secure because of the Rainbow series, right? I kind of remind you of FISP. Only some regardless, I guess, in this day. Anyway, so then I came back to Team Redstone. From Korea, I came back here. I started teaching 86 assembly programming, microprocessors, visual logic, soldering, doing stuff like that. Like I said, when I joined the Army, they put me in a position where I was supposed to be a missile guidance tech, and I had to go through all this schooling. By this time in my career, I had to come back and teach a bunch of young guys how to do this stuff. I completed my AES degree right here at Calhoun during this time frame. I graduated with CIS in programming or something back then, or emphasis in programming. I used to send messages between students right over here in the lab to cheat on tests. Right, that's what we did in the Java class. I still remember one of my instructors used BNC to monitor us. And didn't put a password on it, so we were watching him watch us. Difference was is on his desktop was a copy of the test with the answers. On my desktop was a copy that I needed to put the answers on. So thank you, Calhoun College. Don't resent my degree because I really still need that. Then I started a BS degree over here at UAH. I've completed that now. I have my master's now. I even adjunct professor over at UAH since then. But I became extremely obsessed with programming, networking, and computers in general. When I came back from Korea, I kind of got introduced in it, but I became extremely obsessed. I mean, this was my life for when I woke up to when I went to bed. I mean, that's all I did. Learned a bunch of assembly, that kind of stuff. 8.5 years, I went from green suiter to civilian. When I did civilian, the first job I had was tech support. That's like the #1 entry-level job, is help desk tech support. So what you want to do is, when I got into tech support, I was like, this is really boring. I'm tired of going and telling people, stop clicking this button, or you can open your Outlook by clicking the little thing there. Or people tell me, I don't have the internet because the E is not on the taskbar. This has got to stop. I mean, well, I know I'm a dumb user, but come on, guys, really? Yeah, the little trash down there, if you click on it, that's where the stuff goes where you delete it, you can pull it back, that kind of stuff. Anybody have one of those jobs right now? Most young people, that's going to be your first job, guaranteed. Right? So what I learned from going from that to, I guess like hero, I guess you would say, because I love my job now, is a bunch of lessons. Never say something is too hard. So I went from that help desk job to owning my own company. In between there, I was a senior security engineer at NASA. I did security engineering at the Department of Defense. I worked for a private company that got purchased by McAfee. We were one of the leading SIM vendors out there. So in that time, I did a whole bunch of really crazy cool stuff. I learned some things. Everyone can teach you something. Everyone can teach you something. Even those silly users that don't know how to move stuff out of the recycle bin, they can teach you how to exploit that to do something cool. Or they get some kind of crazy error message on their screen. So you can learn something from everybody. Never go into a situation and not think that you can learn something. Never say no that the class is too hard. Several times, how I went in about 3.5 weeks from being a tech support to being an admin was really simple. You mess up email in any organization, and you're going to get fired. So, these sysadmins who were hot-headed and would never listen to anybody, they messed up email. Well, our boss flew in from DC down here to Huntsville, Alabama to figure out what was going on. As I'm walking him back to the server room, because I'm the key, I'm the help desk guy, with the key to let him in, I'm like, sir, you know that backup that they can't restore? I bet if they named it the exact same name as the old store, it would probably be stolen. He stopped dead his tracks, looks at me like, they didn't do that yet? And I was like, well, I tried to tell them that too, you know, like 3 days ago, but they, you know, this is something that shut the hell up, go out somebody. So, turned around, went back, he restored it, and I was no longer help this guy. Hey, yeah, buddy. Hey, you guys will help him. So, I basically come under his control. Underneath his control, he started, you know, assigning me different duties and that kind of stuff, and I just always took the initiative to do those. Volunteer for every single training. I was the guy in the room, and how I got 20 plus certs is every time they come in and say, hey, we need somebody to do something, I got it, I'll do it. Because I really enjoy this field. Volunteer for everything. You know, something else you do is initiative, right? Take initiative no matter what you see. A lot of people have problems, but they can't describe the problem for you. As a young person, what you want is somebody to say, hey, go fix the mail server. Or go fix this or go fix that. Let me tell you, when I was in the Department of Defense, I saw a whole bunch of problems just because people were complaining that there was an issue. Let me give you one such example. We were at a university, and people would plug their computers in all the time and get on our network. So my first solution, well, everybody's complaining about that we can't have these people on our network. They were looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars of blinky light, flashy light, cool stuff, right? Me, I'm like, ED scripts, a couple little things here, and we're going to be good. So what I did was I looked at the Cisco switch. I was like, holy crap, it has VNPS. Created, I used this thing called OpenVPS, created a PHP interface in about a weekend. Started watching the protocols, a little bit of hacking, probably wrote maybe 150 lines of C code and maybe 1,000 lines of PHP code. Took about 2 weeks, and we were no longer buying a $250,000 solution. But my company was now deploying this little bitty Linux box across 15, 20 sites to secure their networks so that people could plug in their stuff. Nobody told me to go do that, but I saw a problem and tried to solve it. I will tell you that as young people, go do those types of things. Solve people's problems, and you'll get promoted really, really fast. You'll become a hero. Read. I can't stress this enough. Do not learn the latest fancy stuff out there. Like, hey, for example, I want to learn reverse engineering. The first book you pick up is on IDA-Pro. Anybody know what IDA-Pro is? It's like this really cool, flashy, gooey thing that you do all reverse engineering. But you have no clue what assembly is. You have no clue how many registries there are. You don't understand what a jump statement is, or an increment statement, or why the EAX registry is there, or any of this stuff. But you're going to use this really cool, flashy tool, and you're going to use this learn IDA-Pro in 24 hours, or IDA-Pro for dummies, and you're going to become proficient. You're going to be able to do all the use cases in the book, but you didn't learn the basics. If you would have learned the basics, IDA-Pro would have been silly easy. All the debug would be silly easy if you learn the basics first. So read. Learn the basics, do that stuff. Then practice. What I mean by practice is you guys have all this stuff at your fingertips. It is readily accessible. Open source communities and stuff is out there. Install it, load it, play with it, put your hands on it. Stop waiting for your boss to tell you to do something. Just learn it. If you want to do this good, go do it, learn it, figure out what you like, and do it. And then share. Whatever you learn, share it with everybody else. Because I'm telling you, the more you share, the more people will share back with you, be a part of the community, and it'll boost everything. Your education level will go through the roof and be unreal. All right. So that was my story. That's how I got into this, or lessons learned that from being in this, my past. So how can you break into security field? Well, I'll tell you this. I don't like statistics. Why? Because 67.2% of all statistics are made up on the spot anyways. I just made that one up too. But you guys believe it. That's why I don't like statistics, right? So none of this data was done. This is all from my head, my personal experiences, so take it, leave it, whatever, I'm just sharing. If you have 101 security professionals, how do you do this? They're going to give you 102 answers. Also minus 5% of my statistical data. Boy, you guys are a tough crowd, right? This is why I do information security and not stand-up comedy. Cybersecurity, IT security, insert whatever jargon word you want there. So tomorrow it won't be called cybersecurity, it'll be called home-to-one security, I don't even know, on-to-one, whatever, it'll be something, right? The problem is it's a diverse field. It's hugely diverse. There's offense, there's defense, there's assurance, there's Bacteria, there's all this stuff, IA, all this stuff. Inside of each one of those, offense is, you want to be a pen tester, you want to be inside of a pen tester, you want to be a network pen tester, or application decompiler, reverse engineer kind of thing. Are you web apps? Are you C code, that kind of stuff? You know, it's very, very, very diverse. The defense is very, very diverse too. Am I going to do firewalls? Am I going to do automated code? What am I going to do? It's a huge, broad field, but everybody looks at cybersecurity as a single field. Your education systems, everybody looks at it as like, oh, you're going to be in IT security. In reality, it's very much like the medical field. And then you have general practitioners, and then you have a bunch of specialists, right? You have neurologists, you have proctologists, you have all these things. Cybersecurity is the exact same way, but our education system, our certifications, our acceptance of it hasn't caught up with that yet. Everybody goes to the same schools and do the same things and learn the same things, or same subject areas, right? But in reality, it's extremely diverse. Think about engineering 100 years ago. Engineering 100 years ago, you got an engineering degree, but you could have been a mechanical engineer, chemical engineer, any of that stuff. Right now, it's not like that. So this is the road that's most traveled. This is what most of the people will do. You'll start out with high school, college, some certifications possibly. You'll go into a help desk internship, junior programming position, network engineer, something like that. You'll transition into being a developer. And sooner or later, you'll wear a bunch of hats, and one of them will possibly be security, and you'll get your security job. This takes about, on average, if you're shooting to be in the security field, 3 to 8 years, depending on how fast or quickly you can do that. You'll get your very first security job, and it's usually because it's an additional duty. It's not something that you got hired on. This is the slide that I saw on LinkedIn like 2 weeks before this talk. I was like, this is perfect, right? Why? Because there's really 2 career paths. The long way, 20 years, and then the short way, become a criminal and get there. So this is just a joke, not my advice, I just thought it was fun. The fast track though, everybody wants the fast track. And I've had some people in my company that we have fast track. Internships right out of getting their master's degree, right out of getting their bachelor's degree. And I'll tell you, there's a huge complexity with this. Why is there a huge complexity with this? They can hack stuff and they can break stuff, but they have no understanding of the impact on it. So they hack your Active Directory, dump all your own hashes, and they're like, dude, why didn't you know I could totally crack all these own hashes in like 10 minutes? Well, the sysadmin part of it, who's had to install this stuff on a 5,000 person network, isn't there. He doesn't understand how complicated it is just to get users to change their password, or how this system was set up 10 years ago on a 2,000 domain, and nobody thought to change the checkbox to store these hashes. He doesn't have that kind of experience, or she. So that's missing, and he can't portray the true risk or the true issues behind this stuff. So it's a very complex thing. He'll hack a network device and not understand why default passwords and stuff are still in place, or why they use, or why are they passing the routing tables and stuff with MD5 protections. Because he understands security, he can crack it, the tools, it doesn't necessarily mean he understands why that stuff is in place and how to go about fixing it. So the fast track is really hard and complex. It's not impossible. But you're not going to come out of high school, you're not going to come out of college and just be the guy. You're going to miss some of that experience. This is also in like software coding and stuff. Think about it. You do a lot of coding and you know how to like crack stuff, you know what buffer overflow is. You can even, be like super cool and do a heap spread, right? That's because you're elite. You come out of school, it's like super awesome. You do these many corruption things, you find these vulnerabilities. But do you really realize the amount of time it takes to develop something like the Adobe PDF Reader? And how it's 100,000 or 150,000 lines of code, and 200 different developers over multiple times, you're gonna betray back and be like, how did this idiot not dereference this pointer right? I just totally own this software. But in reality, that was a multi-million-dollar organization that was developing a very complex application over a very long time with a threat, attack vector, and avenues, and all that great stuff that changed every day of the week. But because he doesn't have that software development experience, he just looks at them like they're idiots. Not good. So it's a very complex thing to do. And a lot of times in security, you'll hear people call the developers and all that stuff idiots, and it's really not true. It's just a lack of actually doing that job. It's seeing that those people aren't creating vulnerabilities on purpose. All right, so what certifications do I recommend? I recommend the ones that someone else pays for. Every certification I know, someone else pays for. If you put yourself in the right positions and you start solving people's problems, and you do kind of like the career path that I took, you just read, initiative, share, solve problems, there will be people that want to pay for your certification. Guaranteed. They're going to ask you to get more training. Volunteer for the training, get your certifications. right? That's the ones I recommend. But certifications, understand this. Very few demonstrate real skill. They're more like tests that you can memorize to see that you have some kind of understanding. Case in point, I hear the certified ethical hacker is like one of the most sought out things for kids out of college. And I agree, that's kind of cool. Well, just because you took the certified ethical hacker does not mean you can actually do the job that I did. I hate to say that, it's not, it's a tools test. But what about all those processes, all those complications? Why is it that I can do something like pass the hash between multiple boxes and authenticate to it? Right? It's really cool that you learn the tool and you got your certified ethical hacker and you can do that. But what does that mean to a multi-course Active Directory environment that does international business? What does that mean then? Because you're a CH, can you portray that risk? Can you tell the business owner why that's important? Or why that happens? Or why Microsoft has slept in their code for this long? No, probably not. So, it's, going back, certifications demonstrate that you have some idea of what's going on, but you actually demonstrate the real potential and that kind of stuff. Right? We following, or am I putting you guys to sleep? Alright, cool. But if you work for the government, these are probably good ones to get. If you want to job for the government, they have this whole program, 857, is that what it is? 857. The IAT thing. If you want a job in government, get these certifications. But I'll tell you what, if you're good, you'll get on with the defense contractor, and they're going to put you through this track. Again, have them pay for it. Have them pay for it. Alright, do you need a college degree? Well, I'll tell you this, it doesn't hurt. It will not hurt you to go get a college degree. And honestly, higher education is starting to get it a little bit. Remember I told you, so my path was CIS, Computer Information Systems. I liked programming, so I chose the programming option. Then I went to school as a bachelor's degree in mathematics and computer science. Why? Because I thought I was going to be a programmer. My master's degree is in information security. I run a penetration testing company. All that schooling gave me about this much knowledge of what I actually do today. But it was a good environment to learn how to learn. I say school is a great place to learn how to learn. The habits that I developed during college, the discipline I developed to pass the courses and do the mathematics and that kind of stuff. And I'll tell you, my algorithms class, even though I hated it, no difference between a depth first search and a breadth first search, actually paid off in some of the silly tools that I've used to like scan networks and stuff like that. So it is important, but the skills that I learned how to learn, where to go find the information, where do I go look up this basic information, the principles of what I need to do. That was the best experience. Schools are starting to break out their curriculum too. Remember I said, it's kind of like in information security, cybersecurity, everybody just gives you a general practitioner degree. Oh, you're an information security person. Well, what does that mean? It's a diverse field. They need to specialize. We're starting to see that. UAB has a forensics program now. That's right here. UAH is starting to stand up their information assurance, well, they have to stood up, but they have an information assurance path. They're starting to recognize that they have to train people differently. They have a forensics group, you have a defense group, you have these things. Hopefully, sooner or later, higher education will pick up and understand that those should be different degree paths. Just like an electrical engineer and a mechanical engineer are two different engineers, so is a defense guy and an offense guy. And inside that, there's difference between software hacking versus web hacking versus everything else that you do. And we need to start offering degrees in that area and curriculum in that area. If you're not going to do that, great. Look at people like, what is it, NYU, is it NYU Poly, anybody know that they have like the forensic stuff? Look at some of the stuff that they're putting out. I know some people in here, like some of their stuff, have gone to that school. And they specialize in it. So look at that. All right, do I need to learn a programming language? I'll tell you this, you hear people say this all the time, oh, you don't have to learn that. Well, look at where they are right now. Mediocre. You want to be 8 to 5 mediocre? Don't learn how to program. You want to be better at what we do? No matter where you're at, even if it's not security or that stuff, learn a programming language. Because as soon as you start automating things, it just becomes unbelievably powerful. When I was a sysadmin, how did I go from mediocre sysadmin to the man? I automated the classroom installations of like 350 to 400 computers daily. That task used to take 8 hours. It took us about 25, 30 minutes, and we still claimed it was 8 hours because we were hanging out at the computer. Right? That's how you become a man. Because you automate stuff. When I joined NASA, they used to have IDS sensors. It would take them a day and a half to publish their IDS sensors. I had no clue what multi-threaded programming was. But I was like, this is a friggin' problem. I cannot get my signatures that I just saw some hacker do out of my IDS so I can detect it until tomorrow afternoon. So I wrote the program, doing it from an hour and a half to about 5 minutes. Every sensor updated and information coming in. For anybody who's actually really like things, well, learning how to program, enable that. If you're a routing guy or a switch guy, you will learn how to do like bash programming and copying the code in there because it's faster. Typing that stuff out on a command line or clicking links in Active Directory to add users and all the other stuff that you do and get permissions, it is slow. Learn WMI, learn VBScript, learn bash scripting, learn Perl, learn Python, learn Ruby, learn any of that stuff because it will make you, tremendously better at any job that you do, not just programming itself. So I'm going to tell you it won't hurt. Caution, my advice again. How am I doing on time?
You got plenty.
Huh?
You got plenty of time.
How many minutes you did?
You got plenty.
Plenty? So plenty is I got the rest of the day. Hey, Paul, you want people to talk? I'm talking at the end of the day. 20 minutes, outstanding. All right, so my advice, be cautious. This is just my advice I have for staff. Develop your soft skills. If you want to go from mediocre in this field, develop your soft skills. And as you can see, I'm still developing mine because of the way I talk sometimes. And I agree, it's spoiled that now my associate's going to back on try to get me revoked. But soft skills, what do I mean by that? I can teach anybody in this room to be technically competent. That is the easy thing. You want to know the LSI model, you want to know how networking works, you want to know why they're sequence numbers, you want to know why SCADA systems get old, because of the protocols that they're on and how simple they are to understand. It's not just SCADA that has ASCII protocols. Everything you do is ASCII protocols. DNS, HTTP, all this stuff, right? So it's no different. It's just, like I tell people, when I have SCADA systems, it's like kicking a kitty. You walk in the room, you kick the kitty, right? Especially because they're doing stuff 10 years ago. Your DNS, when was it designed? 25 years ago. How many years do you use DNS? It's the same thing, right? It's still up anyway. Learn your soft skills. What I mean by that is teaching you the technical stuff is really, really simple. Teaching you how to take what you have learned as a technical person in security and portray it to the business owners, the people that it's relevant to, is extremely hard. Getting people to write great reports, getting people to translate what they know into actionable information for business owners to do stuff who don't care about this technical stuff is extremely hard. And case in point, we hacked into somewhere, and my engineer, like I said, he dumps all the password hashes out of Active Directory. He uses this cool new sexy tool. He cracks them all. He does all this great stuff, and he writes a report on that section. And that section is 3 pages long about how elite he is and all the commands and stuff that he did. If I was to turn that into the CEO of that company or the CIO of that company, he'd be like, "What's the point? We broke our passwords?" But he wouldn't read all that stuff. He doesn't care. Really, it should be like 3 sentences. You're storing your own passwords, they're weak, this is the reason they're weak, we cracked them all. That's all he really cares about. He doesn't want to know your commands and all this other stuff, right? So it's soft skills. Learning how to stop trying to be like the man and just describe the problem to him. Really, really simple. Get out there, start presenting to people. In information security, once you start to find vulnerabilities and you start doing kind of cool stuff and you start to rip open your shirt and become a Superman, you're going to be in front of people. You're going to have to translate that stuff. What you don't want to do is overcomplicate it so much that they do the deer in headlights. Anybody do the deer in headlights today yet? Any of the talks? Practice your soft skills. When there's 350 words on your slides, practice your soft skills. Just say it. Never stop learning. If you want to be great at information security, you will never stop learning. Every day something changes. Now I pull up my Twitter feed and I'm like, holy crap, they wrote what? Or I pull up my RSS feed and I'm like, holy crap, wow, this is great. You're going to learn something every single day. Never stop. Never become the know-it-all. Never walk in the room and tell everybody you're the smartest person in the room. Let them figure it out. You guys already figured out I'm the smartest guy in this room, right? Just kidding. See, that's why I fell out of information security. Bad jokes. I'm just checking to see if you guys pay attention. Anyways, no, the smartest guy in the room is Iron Meat.
Okay.
Anyways, don't become the know-it-all. Don't become that guy because people become sour. And even if you are really, really smart, when people become sour, they stop listening to you. Right? Have you guys been in those meetings where the engineer's just like running his mouth and you're like, you don't have any soft skills? You think you're the smartest guy in the room? I don't care. You just do the talk to the hand kind of stuff? You guys do that? Do you guys even go to meetings? Join information security and you go to meetings. Everything's accomplished. Alright? Adopt this. This is probably the best philosophy I've ever adopted in my life. How many people raise your hand? Well, unless your boss is in the room, have an idiot for a boss. Alright, nobody's looking. How many people have worked, maybe not your current boss, for an idiot? Okay? How many of you guys are bosses? How many think your people think you're an idiot? The difference is we're older, we know we're idiots, right? So what I mean by push-pull philosophy is this. Instead of looking at your boss as an idiot and saying, I know more than him, how the heck is he in charge of me? Push him to be better. Push him up, he will pull you. And what I mean by this is instead of trying to replace him, because the biggest thing or biggest mistake you make in your career is thinking that you can replace that guy and become that management person, right? Why? Because he's built a relationship with other managers in the area and stuff. So if you start trying to push him aside, it's only going to cause you issues. You're going to be looked at as like the thorn in everybody's side kind of thing, and they're going to try to push you out of the organization. But if you take that boss who somebody has believed in and put him in that place, and you make him look like a rock star because you're a rock star, you get promoted and he will get promoted. It becomes a push-pull relationship. So you start making a relationship with him, you start feeding him all your stuff. Let him even take credit for some of your stuff. Why? Because he takes credit for it, he's now become a crack baby, right? He can't do that stuff himself. He's a crack baby, and you're the crack dealer. And you'll never get fired because he just got promoted. So you push him to greatness, he will pull you to greatness. And as you're doing that, everybody that's around you, look for who you can pull up as well. Find those other people that have skills that you don't have, grab them and put them on your team too. The most successful people in this business are the ones that build great teams. Right? And not everybody knows everything. So don't try to replace your idiot boss. Push him up. Make him the CIO of the company and you become the CIO. Right? Don't push him aside. If you try to push him aside, it's going to cause you issues. So this is my push-pull philosophy. Alright, and my last thing here is get involved. Stop just sitting around reading Twitter feeds and RSS feeds. Get involved. There are things that are available to you guys that were never available to me. Plug down programs is one of them. I think this is the coolest, hottest, sexiest thing that's happened in the last 24 months, 24, 36 months. Why? Because now you guys are not going to go to jail for hacking Microsoft or Facebook or LinkedIn. They say hack me and tell me how you hack me, and we'll even give you some money. How can you beat that? If we would have tried to hack them 5 years ago, or like when we tried to disclose vulnerabilities to them, we got notices from their lawyers. And it scared the hell out of us. Right? Anybody ever get one of those notices? Try to disclose vulnerability to somebody, and all of a sudden you get a legal notice that says, you will cease and desist. Yeah, it's not good, it's not solving anything. Right? Companies today don't do that anymore. If you're getting that, you're dealing with like dark age companies. They need to grow up. Yeah, that's why I really say it. But join those programs. Learn the tools, learn the basics, do all that stuff. It's there. You're not going to get in trouble for hacking Facebook anymore. Super awesome. No? And you get paid if you actually find something. If you don't want to do that, and you're not in offensive security, you want to do defensive stuff, there is 1,000,001 open source projects out there. I will tell you this, I've worked in the vendor community for a company that got purchased by McAfee, we did SIM stuff on that, we had IDSs. Most vendor products that you guys purchase that have the cool blinky light things and secure networks are based off of open source software somehow, somewhere. All they've done is taken open source software, souped it up a little bit, stuck a defibrillator in it, put a roller on it, that kind of thing, right, and made it super sleek and sexy. And they're selling it to you. So if you get into these open source projects, you're going to become somebody that's skilled in a wide range of things. So I recommend you get involved. Check it out. Check it out. And then last is do what you're doing today. Get involved with the community, right? Share. Come to BSides. Go to DerbyCon. Go to DEFCON. Network with people that have the same type of thinking that you have. Reach out to those people. They're weirdos. I'm a weirdo. But nobody will bite you. I promise you. Right? It's like one of the biggest fears is, hey, should I go ask this guy who was just on, I don't know, some news channel talking about how bad this threat was for something as simple as, like, how do I use your tool? Or how did you get into the field? Or why doesn't this work? We appreciate that more than anything, right? So when I create something and somebody gives me feedback, I'm like, oh, yeah, you're right, that's kind of bogus, let me fix that for you. Or I don't mind helping. And I'll tell you, all my peers are like that. When I first got in the field, I would just ask questions like crazy. I didn't care if I looked like an idiot. I just wanted to know. I was so curious. Like, how does that work? Why is it like that? Why do we have to do it this way? ask those questions, right? It's not pester the heck out of them when it comes to doctors. Right. So, I'll tell you this and I'll leave you with this. If you do what you love, you will never work a day in your life. And I plan to never work a day in my life, ever. Because I do what I love. And that's a philosophy you should have. All right, that's it. Any questions? No questions at all? I covered it all? Nobody wants to mind breaking this drill? I saw that cabin guy run and tell administrators that I'm going to lose my degree now. Sure. How do you get the work experience? Exactly what I said. You start at the help desk, you start solving everybody's problems. Join a committee, do blogs with bounty programs, join open source. That's all work experience. When I get resumes from interns that say, hey, I have done work for this project, or I have done this, or I solved this bug bounty, dude, I count that as much of work experience as I would somebody that has 5 years of administration. And honestly, as a owner of a company that's looking for really bright minds and people to do it, that means a heck of a lot more to me than somebody that sat as a system administrator for 10 years doing the same job, because of the amount of initiative it does. Will that get you a job everywhere? No. We know that those jobs have to be in certain places, in your bigger contractors and stuff. That's what they foster. Why? Because there's an HR says you must have 5 years experience, you must have this, you must have that. When you want to work for a smaller company, do those other things, get the experience, and then go work for the bigger company. That's your goal. Right? So do that other stuff. I count that as work experience. And I think a lot of people are coming to that now. You go solve some really cool problems in some open source projects, that work experience hurdle will go away. Yeah, the work experience problem, it'll go away if you start solving some real problems and you start getting involved in the community and stuff. Do it. I believe that. I don't have any perfect Harvard stats. I didn't do a survey.
I have an observation and a question, actually. The observation is on your share thing. I've actually learned a lot more teaching people how to do things than I have actually trying to learn myself sometimes. If I understand something, they're going to explain it to someone else. You can really learn a lot and think about it differently if you explain it to them. My question is what's a good way to get into open source? Where's a good place to start?
Google. So get into open source. So I agree 100% with him. To teach somebody else, when I'm really confident, it's like some skill. When I want to perfect that skill, I try to teach it to other people. And if you guys are in Huntsville, you know that I teach at least once a quarter or do something for the community. And why I do that is not because I'm going to make any money out of it. It's because it perfects my skill. So teaching stuff is huge. And you have to learn it better so that other people can interpret it and understand it. You have to be like the expert at it. So I do that all the time. He asked, how do we get started in open source? Well, I would ask this back to every one of you if you want to get started in open source or you want to get started in bug bounty. What do you like doing? Go find those projects that support what you like doing. So if you like being the guy who detects hackers on post boxes, go look for a hits project to support. Go look for the people that write the signatures for it. Start committing those signatures. Go to Bro. Anybody know what Bro is? Or Short? IDF communities, right? They write signatures and publish this stuff out all the time. Get involved with them. What's really crazy is Bro is an extremely powerful IDS, and nobody in this room knew what it was. Be that person. You will solve everybody's issue. I mean, you'll just be the man. Instead of buying a $250,000, $500,000 solution, you implemented a Bro IDS for less than $5K, and it does the same thing. You become the man, and you will get promoted. And that work experience issue goes away. Any other questions? Anybody think I'm just completely full of crap? I do too.